Hello there, you're watching Epicentre on CNN News 18. I'm Maha Siddiqui. The Prime Minister's cavalcade was stranded for about 20 minutes today on a flyover as he was heading from Bhatinda to Ferozepur for a rally. Protesters were seen blocking the flyover as well. A breach of the Prime Minister's security. What the BJP is now alleging was a sabotage and not just a lapse. The Congress and the Punjab Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi claim that the PM's route was changed all of a sudden and argue it wasn't a lapse on their part. But in the run-up to the Punjab election, a war of words is in full swing and very grave allegations are being levelled. Was it a lapse or a sabotage? That's the debate this evening on Epicentre. But before the debate, a look at all the sequence of events and the politics that has now broken out over the security issue.
On a gloomy Wednesday afternoon, Prime Minister Modi landed in poll-bound Punjab to unveil a slew of development projects in Ferozepur. He was to be flown by a helicopter, but due to rain and poor visibility, he decided to go by road. Soon after, news broke that the Prime Minister is turning back and not going to Ferozepur.
विकास कार्य का शिलान्यास आज करने के लिए प्रधानमंत्री जी हमारे बीच में आ रहे थे। उसकी बहुत इच्छा आप सब लोगों को मिलने की भी थी, लेकिन कई कारणों प्रधानमंत्री जी हमारे बीच में उपस्थित नहीं हो रहे हैं।
The reason? A massive security lapse. A stunning series of claims made by the Home Ministry put the blame squarely on the Channi government. When the Prime Minister's convoy reached a flyover, the road was blocked by protesters. The convoy was stuck on the flyover for 15 to 20 minutes. The Prime Minister's schedule and travel plans was communicated well in advance to the Punjab government. But despite that, no additional security was deployed by the Punjab government. After the security lapse, the Prime Minister decided to go back to the Bhatinda airport. When he reached the airport, an angry Prime Minister Modi sarcastically told officials, "Thanks to your Chief Minister for letting me return alive."
Never before in the history of our country has a state government knowingly constructed a scenario where the Prime Minister of the country will be brought to harm.
But Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi absolved any responsibility.
ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਐਗਜ਼ੈਕਟ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਹੈਲੀਕਾਪਟਰ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਮੌਕੇ ਦੇ ਮੌਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਏਜੰਸੀਆਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਅਫਸਰਾਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਮੌਕੇ ਦੇ ਮੌਕੇ ਸੜਕ ਦੇ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਲਿਜਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। ਕਿਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਅਟੈਕ ਵਾਲੀ ਜਾਂ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਖਤਰੇ ਵਾਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਲੈਪਸ ਵਾਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ।
One man who didn't let Channi off the hook was his predecessor, Captain Amarinder Singh.
Now it is the job of the Punjab Chief Minister and his Home Minister to see that the road open and the security of the Prime Minister is maintained. And this business, what they are doing, is a total mess up on the part of this government, and I think this government should be sacked. If a Prime Minister of this country cannot visit any state of his own when he wishes to, and there's hindrances are put in by the state government, then that government has no business to be there.
The politics aside, what's abundantly clear is that there is a serious security lapse. But the question is whether this was a deliberate bid to derail the Prime Minister's visit.
Joining me now on the show, Swati Malik, Congress spokesperson, Yashwardhan Azad, former IPS officer, will be joining us in a bit. Tuhin Sinha, BJP spokesperson, with us, and Dr. Sunny Ahluwalia of the Aam Aadmi Party will also be joining us briefly. Swati Malik, coming first to you, the BJP has made a very grave allegation against your party that it was an attempt to assassinate the Prime Minister. How would you defend your party under such circumstances? Because the Chief Minister allegedly did not come on the phone when JP Nadda called him to inform him of the breach.
To say that we were trying to, assassinate him, it's a very strong statement, and it's a very irresponsible kind of a statement, because he's not the Prime Minister only of BJP. He's the Prime Minister of this country. And in that position, in the chair, the Congress party, as well as the entire country, should be respecting him, and we respect him for that. Now, what happened today was a very unfortunate thing. It should not have happened. But now what I also believe is that Mr. Amit Shah has asked for a investigation in this, and he's asked for a report from the state government of Punjab as well, and from Punjab police, that is, as well as I hope he's asked for it from SPG and his IB, and which the departments that come under him. So the reports, once they come in, that will be able to show where did the fault happen. Because I'm sure you would agree by now, with all the debates happening, I'm sure you would agree that it is not the sole responsibility of the state police only. It is a joint responsibility of SPG as well as the IB, the Intelligence Bureau, which would give all the reporting, and both of them report to the Home Ministry. So it is a joint responsibility of all three. So wherever the failure has happened, wherever, whichever sector of the three, wherever the failure has happened, that accountability will be fixed as per the Home Minister himself.
Okay.
So let's wait for the investigation before just playing the blame game here.
Tuhin Sinha, this is a very serious matter. We are talking about the security of none other but the Prime Minister of the country. He has the highest level of security by the SPG. Did the SPG falter? Why did it not clarify? And as the Chief Minister is saying that there was a change in plan, whether this alternative option that they were looking at via the road was a viable one and a safe one.
Maha, no doubt, this is an unprecedented security lapse, and if somebody has to take responsibility for it, it is the state administration of Punjab. Why? Because, the change of plan when the Honorable Prime Minister decided to travel by route was necessitated because of the weather. There were rains happening at that point of time, and this is, whenever the Prime Minister travels on any route, a contingency plan is always in place. Now, he would not have undertaken that journey had he not been assured by the highest officers in the Punjab administration that the road is sanitized and clear. So he embarked upon that journey based on that assurance, which turns out to be deceptive now, because only the Punjab government was aware of this route, and had it not been for the connivance of sections of, within the Punjab administration with the protesters, this wouldn't have taken place. Now, I want to point out something else. If you remember, Sidhu had been in confrontation with Channi for nearly 2 months for the appointment of a DGP of his choice. Now, that DGP, as per protocol, was supposed to receive the Honorable Prime Minister. Now, Channi ji, after 4 hours of whatever thinking, he comes out and makes this excuse that he had to go for a COVID test. But shouldn't the ADGP have been present? Shouldn't, according to protocol, if the Chief Secretary of the state were not present, shouldn't the additional...
all that would have come into play had the Prime Minister reached that venue. This happened in between, on a flyover, where protesters came too close to the Prime Minister. They should not have been there. And the Prime Minister is safeguarded by the SPG, Tuhin Sinha.
Maha, you are factually wrong over here. These officers were supposed to receive him at Bhatinda airport, not where he was supposed to go at Husseinpur. And they were supposed to receive him the moment he landed at Bhatinda. They were missing. And their deputies were also not there, which is a huge lapse to begin with.
Yashovardhan Azad, as Tuhin Sinha is pointing out, they were supposed to be present in Bhatinda. Is this a lapse that the senior most police personnel who should have been present to receive the Prime Minister and then take him en route, on that road, a route that they had decided upon, they should have been there with him?
I've heard all these politicians. Now, can I talk professionally on this subject?
Sure, yes.
Yeah, thank you. See, Prime Minister being trapped on a overbridge or a bridge for 15 minutes in a border state and in a border district is a grave security lapse, one way or the other, whichever way you look at it. The Prime Minister is accorded the highest security. Let me clarify a few misconceptions. The SPG is concerned only about the proximate security of the Prime Minister. Obviously, in a state when the Prime Minister goes, the entire responsibility rests with the state. And therefore, it is not a question of who receives the Prime Minister where. That is not an issue at all. And neither are the Chief Secretary and the Prime Minister supposed to accompany the Prime Minister when he's on an electioneering tour. That is a different thing altogether. During electioneering, Prime Minister is accorded the highest. He has been given exemption. He can take the state plane. He can use the bulletproof car because his security is paramount. So number one, there is a grave lapse one way or the other. Number two, the thing about contingency planning is, even if you land in Bhatinda and you plan at the last minute to go by road, you know, already, because the weather conditions were bad, I'm sure the policemen and the state of Punjab would have decided on a contingency route. In any case, whenever Prime Minister lands by air anywhere, you always think about the weather conditions for his onward travel and keep a route already cleared in advance in case he has to undertake a road journey. Therefore, in second part, it is incumbent upon the state government or the state police that there should be no stoppages on the way. Suppose, okay, there were Kisan protesters out there. Now they can't protest and block anywhere. You are stretching the meaning of democracy too far. If it was there any kind of stoppages, then they should have cleared it immediately. And the road clearance party wouldn't have taken any time to clear.
All right.
Therefore, if you look at in any respect, it was a grave lapse. And
Swati
lastly,
Malik, just a second, sir. I want a response on that count. Swati Malik, the point that Yashovardhan Azad is making is, why were the protesters there? This is a border state. Security here should be extremely tight, and under the circumstances that we've seen in Punjab, we've seen cases of sacrilege, we've seen a case of lynching, we've seen a blast in a court in Ludhiana. The security should be on high alert, not just for anybody, but for the Prime Minister more so. How did these protesters reach the flyover? That is a question that the state government will have to answer, Swati Malik.
Yes, Maha, I completely agree with you. This incident should not have happened, and the Prime Minister's security is of prime importance here, rather. But what's happened here is, of course, the farmers, we all know the farmers reached the flyover, and the 15 minutes, 20 minutes that the Prime Minister had to wait on the flyover was when the Punjab police was trying to remove those farmers from the roads. That is the time the Prime Minister had to wait. Like I said, of course, it should not have happened. And the roads, Mr. Chani, in his press conference, he's made it very clear that till 3 a.m. the roads were made clear. They were all cleared up. The routes were in place. The roads were in place. Everything was in order. Now, how this information got leaked to the farmers, because the stoppage happened 30 kilometers before Hussain Wali. So it's just 30 kilometers before the farmers reached the road and blocked the Prime Minister, and he had to return. So how did the information get leaked to the farmers who reached the spot? All that will have to be investigated. Of course, it is wrong. Of course, it should not have happened. And the Congress party is not condoning it or supporting the blockage of the Prime Minister, of the breach of the, more than the blockage of the Prime Minister, the breach of the security that's happened. But we should go for the reason behind it, instead of, like Mr. Azad said, it is the state government's duty. If it is the state government's duty, it is also the SPG who does a recce of the route, not just a moment, but not just that time, but of course days prior. SPG's duty.
But Swati Malik, I think Yashovardhan Azad just clarified that point. He said that the SPG is responsible for the proximate security. The routes have to be cleared and looked into by the state administration. That is the least that they can do for the Prime Minister. I'll come back to you, Swati Malik. But Sunny Ahluwalia, it appears that there is some amount of politics being done on this as well. Raghav Chadha from your party has tweeted saying any lapse in the security of the Prime Minister is unacceptable. Of course, that's an important and fair point being made. Then he says, whatever our differences may be, with that, is he already creating a scenario that these are political differences that are leading to a security breach for the Prime Minister? Why play politics on such an issue, sir?
No, rather, we also feel very bad when the Prime Minister of the country is in the state of Punjab. And as already said, the Chennai government is not performing at all. And when you say about Raghav Chadha has clearly saying any lapse in the security of Prime Minister is not acceptable, number one. Then he said, whatever our difference with the party, but every state must provide the security for the Prime Minister. So he is very clear that we are also, moved by this kinds of movement, what Chennai government is saying and what Chennai government is saying. Chennai Chief Minister has clearly said that at 3 a.m. the roads were clear. Now, what he is trying to say? Then how come it is a clear failure on the hand of Punjab government? It is a clear failure on the hand of Punjab police. And they are not taking the responsibility. They should apologize that, okay, we went wrong here, and this is our, lapse in the security from our side. It is not from the side of farmers. If they have alternative route, they would have crossed the prime minister from that route. We are not in the politics. We don't want to interfere in these kinds of things. But yes, security lapse is there. If you have seen the Ludhiana bomb blast, if you have seen the secularized cases and other lynching cases as well, there is a complete failure of Punjab government, complete failure of the Home Department of Punjab, which is headed by Mr. Randhawa and Mr. Channi as the Chief Minister.
Yashowardhan Azad, coming back to you, the Prime Minister's security, as you're pointing out, you've given us the nitty-gritties. SPG is responsible for proximate security. The state has to provide security en route, ensure that the routes are clear. But sir, at the end of the day, this is the Prime Minister we are talking about. You have pointed out his security, and everybody points that out, is paramount. Therefore, can we blame any one agency per se in this case? It should be a cohesive effort. It should be coordination. Hasn't that failed as well over here?
No, nothing has failed here except the point that the Punjab police just could not remove those protesters, and basically it is the bhai policy of doing everything by conciliation, and as I told you, stretching the meaning of democracy too far, not clearing the farmers because of whatever loss of votes or for political reasons. They should have been absolutely removed at the same point. Prime Minister's security is paramount, and if we play politics like this, tomorrow in another state something else will happen. The problem is no government wants to do anything which will affect them politically, and that's the problem. But in terms of the security, you should not compromise at all.
Absolutely. Tuhin Sinha, there is an allegation coming from the Congress as well. Swati Malik also pointed that out. She is asking, how did the details of the Prime Minister's route get leaked? That is also one point being made out. Also, the Chief Minister initially, indicated that because the numbers were low at the rally, such excuses are being made. How do you respond to these charges?
If you actually listen to both Channi ji and Swati Malik carefully, they are accepting their failures. Channi says that at
No. All right, Tuhin Sinha, I'll interrupt you there for a bit. BJP's Punjab chief is speaking. Let's quickly listen in.
शिक्षा में सेंध लगाई गई। प्रधानमंत्री किस मार्ग से गुजरेंगे, उस मार्ग की डिटेल कहीं न कहीं किसी न किसी रूप में लीक की गई। राजनीतिक कार्यकर्ताओं को राजनीतिक लाभ के लिए ऐसा अवसर प्रदान किया गया कि वो मार्ग में व्यवधान पैदा कर सकें। ये बिना पुलिस प्रशासन और सरकार के मिलीभगत के संभव नहीं था। निश्चित रूप से देश के करोड़ों करोड़ लोग जिन्होंने अपना आशीर्वाद देकर के माननीय मोदी जी को प्रधानमंत्री चुना है, वो आज पंजाब की सरकार से इस बात का उत्तर चाहते हैं कि जिस तरह का वाकया पंजाब में हुआ है वो किसी व्यक्ति, और व्यक्ति ऐसा मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूं कि कांग्रेस नरेंद्र मोदी जी से नफरत करती है, ये जग जाहिर है, लेकिन देश के प्रधानमंत्री के नाते उनकी सुरक्षा में जो चूक हुई है उसकी जिम्मेदार कौन है। और बजाय जिम्मेदारी तय करने के कांग्रेस के युवा कार्यकर्ता उत्सव मना रहे हैं। मुख्यमंत्री, उपमुख्यमंत्री, गृह मंत्री पंजाब सरकार के वो अनर्गल बयानबाजी कर रहे हैं। कांग्रेस पार्टी के मुख्य प्रवक्ता वो कंफ्यूजन पैदा करने के बयान दे रहे हैं। ये निश्चित रूप से देश के और लोकतांत्रिक देश के, गणतांत्रिक देश के व्यवस्थाओं को ध्वस्त करने का कुछ से षड्यंत्र है। देश का प्रधानमंत्री, देश के 135 करोड़ लोगों का प्रधानमंत्री है, उसकी सुरक्षा में सेंध के जिम्मेदार लोगों के खिलाफ तुरंत कार्रवाई हो, इसे सुनिश्चित किया जाना चाहिए।
That was BJP Punjab in charge Gajendra Singh Shekhawat there talking about the security lapse. Tuhin Sinha, you were making a point before we dipped into that. We were talking, in fact, Gajendra Singh Shekhawat also pointed out to that route leak.
If you listen to the Congress carefully, they are actually accepting their failures. Channi says that he was up till 3 a.m. to speak to the farmers and get the route cleared. So if he actually managed to get the route cleared, did the administration not bother to find out whether they had actually cleared out or whether they were back? They are actually accepting their failure. Swati Malik is asking who could have leaked the information. Of course, it has to be somebody in the administration, in the Punjab administration. And my suspicion is upon this DGP who Sidhu fought with Channi for over 2 months to get him installed. So, you just connect the dots and the massive connivance of the present Punjab government is crystal clear.
All right. So, Yashovardhan Azad, at the end of the day, do you think this kind of politics over the security of the Prime Minister is a dangerous trend that we are lapsing into, rather than looking at this issue threadbare because it's of importance for the country?
Sure. Maha, tell me, in your entire program, I think more than 3/4 of the program is taken over by the politicians. So obviously you are giving it much more importance than the actual professional reasons. You see, the last point, let me tell you, this route leak is not such a big thing. When a Prime Minister arrives at an airport and he has to go to a particular place, how many road routes will be there? And there is a thing called mobile. And one simple call from somebody, a farmer or to a friendly policeman would leak out. And as Prime Minister is progressing along the route, people would get to know. The issue mainly is that there is a road clearance party. Obviously, there would be an advanced Punjab guard which would be going ahead, the warner, the pilot, or the ones which go almost 1 or 2 kilometers ahead. The question was that with this modern digital age, when you get information so fast, why weren't those people removed immediately? The question is, they should have been removed immediately because the exposure of the Prime Minister in a border state is a very, very serious issue.
All right. Yashovardhan Azad saying that we are giving more time to the politicians, hence also responsible at some stage for politicizing this issue. But sir, there have been so many allegations and counter allegations on this very grave issue, on a very serious issue, that bringing in political reactions is important. I want to go across to Sunny Ahluwalia and then I'll come back to you, Yashovardhan Azad. Sunny Ahluwalia, you made the point about the law and order in the state. Isn't this also, at the end of the day, politicizing the security of the Prime Minister? Yes, of course, law and order issue, something that has been raised by most political parties, seems to become a very electoral one at the moment. But shouldn't it be de-linked at the moment with what we have seen today as a security lapse of the Prime Minister?
See, the distance covered by the Prime Minister convoy from the Bathinda airport till the place where there was blockage is approximately 1.5 hours. So it was very clear since 1.5 hour distance that farmers which were sitting, they can easily be removed from that place. But at the same time, we clearly understanding that we don't want to have a political statement on this. We are very clear that Prime Minister's security is important. But Channi government has fully failed in providing security even to Punjab. So how we can expect them to security for the Prime Minister as well? So it is not only the failure at one end, but it is failure at all the ends. Punjab is heading for elections. Though it is a border state, it is very important to control the law and order. And that is the only thing which Aam Aadmi Party is saying from very first day.
Tuhin Sinha, are we running the risk now of this issue becoming political rather than it being looked in a very technical and cold manner because it relates to the security of one of the highest offices in the country?
Ideally, there should be no politics on the issue of national security because the Prime Minister's security is connected to national security. Any intent to harm him is an intent to harm the country. But when the Youth Congress chief, celebrates the Prime Minister's security lapse with a shady tweet like "How's the Josh?" How can politics be out of it? That only shows that somewhere the Congress party had an inkling of it. And I'm very sorry I have to say that, but there is a...
Can I please come in?
Swati Malik, very quickly, respond to that.
Please condemn
Miss-
PV Srinivas's tweet.
See, Tuhin's earlier also said that the Congress party is admitting, and if you listen to Chani's statement there also, he's admitting. We are not admitting the fact. The moment we say that we are ready for investigation or we are ready to be investigated, that does not mean we are admitting. That means our conscience is clear and we are ready for whatever consequences if we are found guilty. But please do not put that, the offense on us without the investigation.
Okay,
Right? Without an
I'll
inquiry,
interrupt
which is
both of you. Last 30 seconds left. I'll give it to Yashwardhan Azad because he wanted to make a point. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I think in a situation like this, which concerns the security of the Prime Minister, and Mr. Tuhin Sinha is right, it is absolutely, we are talking about national security. Somebody from the Home Ministry, and there's a Special Secretary Home, an IPS officer, he should have the press conference and given out the facts of the security lapse or what happened to the Prime Minister's convoy. Because, ultimately, it's not what politicians say. It ultimately, the nation's people want to know what has happened to the Prime Minister, sitting like a duck in his bulletproof car for 15 minutes on an overbridge in a border district.
Yes, all right. Let's leave it at that. Clearly, there are answers that need to be given. This is no ordinary issue. This is a very serious and grave security lapse that needs to be investigated, and more importantly, the public also needs to know what exactly went wrong. Yes. Many thanks to all four of our panelists for joining us here on this discussion this evening. Taking a very quick break now.